Rajiv Pai on stage, please, to say a few words about the adult class which is thriving.
Pujya Sadhvi Shilapiji, Sadhvi Shilapiji. May I kindly request who are the adult class teachers here? So first and foremost, may I please ask Dr. Vinod Kapasi to come on stage. There would be no adults class if it was not for Vinod Kapasi. I also ask Rita Ben to please come along, and Captain Pai, if you can please come along. I think you should get you all standing up here. As you may know, that ever since the SVP school started, adults class has been an integral part of the SVP school. So the idea was, when parents come and drop their children to class, rather than going away, why don't you also enlighten the adults? And it has grown from strength to strength over the past 15 to 20 years. And sorry, Sandeep Pai also. He's been He's been the last one to come join in from Nairobi, but again, a very integral members of the adults class. So we actually thought, why don't we ask some of the adults to actually come here to present and say what they feel about the adults class. So if Nisha Ben, if you're around. Nisha Ben. Chirag.
Jai Jinendra. Thank you, Nisha. So, the email came the other day and it said for me to talk about what inspires you to come and what benefits you get from it. Well, I could do a bit of that. The best bit was a minute or two. So you're okay, guys. It's only a minute or two. So what inspires me? I thought of a few words that come to mind. The first one was the openness. The openness of the people that teach us, the openness of the people who take care of us when we have our functions, how open they are to ideas, how open they are to open in their hearts, and how kindly they do everything. That I think was a big thing for me, especially because I found that amongst these people who I've come to know, and some of them quite like, there was so little ego, and that mattered a lot to me. What are the other things I thought of? I thought that the other thing that spoke very clearly to me was the non-judgmental nature of especially the teachers that we have. I don't know too many of the other teachers, but especially the teachers that we have, because we have one or two people in our group who, I'm not going to name any names to embarrass Raj, but we have one or two people in our group who are always making trouble for these lovely people. And they take it so well, and they always reply in a nice way. It's all right, anytime. The other thing I've noticed, the other thing that inspires me to come again and again and again and again is there's an openness that exists. It's open to all. We often have days when they ask us to bring friends, and I've brought friends from other faiths and religions, and they've talked about how open everything was, how the lack of ego. These are the things I've mentioned before, because they're the words that keep coming again and again in my mind. And the other thing that inspires me, really, I have to say it again and again, is our teachers, because they really have gone from the most academic of things to the most prosaic of things to, and when Kevin Bai does his lectures and we talk about philosophy, we find, 1 week we've been talking about the differences between mantras and sloks, and the next week we're talking about how a pilot has to decide how many lives he's going to save, and somehow tie all of that up together. it's a fascinating place to be. And I see one or two faces here who I don't see on a Friday evening. You should come. The next thing was the benefits. For me, this is very personal, but for me, it's rekindled my interest in Jainism. I was one of those people for whom Jainism was very much about rituals and things you did, and you weren't allowed to ask the questions why you did the things that you did. And as we all know, there are many organizations out there which exist that do behave a little bit like that. This house doesn't, and that's why it's rekindled my personal interest in Jainism. I have a long way to go, as people will tell you, but it certainly increased my interest in Jainism. The other thing, the benefit that we've had is it's inspired my children, and that matters a lot. We started coming here because it was something to do while the children had their classes, and I think now we're in the car before the kids are in the car. So that's been really good. With the children, you find very often it's not they may not know the exact history. They may not be able to recite prayers and mantras verbatim, but every now and then they'll say something that surprises you. You know, you hear something in the news, and then they can tie it up to something that they've spoken about in their Jainism. I don't need to tell you about that because you heard how well Rishi and Asha did it just now, so you know what I mean. The other thing, again, a very personal thing, this group of teachers here allows me to be myself. My ideas are perhaps not exactly the same as theirs, but I don't feel ridiculed, and I don't feel as though I am any less than they are, and for that I thank you. And the other words that came into my mind were, we've met some great new people, and I hope they now become friends, because that's how we feel about them. It's a fun place to be, and I feel it's almost very much like a family, and that's what we've come into. I was thinking about the organisation as a whole and how I would describe it, because we've been very fortunate. We've come across many organisations and had much contact. And I think this is one of those, the way I would describe it is, with SCVP, it's the importance of the message that's important, rather than the ego of the messenger. And for that, again, I thank you very much.
Before I just call one more adult coming along, but as Chirag Bhai said, that according to Sandeep Bhai, the only reason to come to SUP adults class, if you have to find punya, the only punya you can make is by coming to SUP adults classes. So for those who don't come here, and you find punya, as you tell you every single week, if you come here, this is the only way. There is no other way of finding punya except by attending a SUP adults class. So I don't have to ask you all to come to adults class. Just one more.
Pujya Sadhvi Shilapiji. I was requested again to say what inspires me to come to SCVP and the benefits that I've received from attending the class. I started coming when we enrolled the kids for the kids classes, and it makes sense that I should learn about Jainism as well. Being born in a Jain family, we grew up, with seeing parents and grandparents performing rituals, but didn't really know the reason why. And it makes sense that I need to understand Jainism, so that if the kids come back home and ask me, then I don't have to Google it, as with many other subjects that I have to. So that was one part of it, learning more about our religion. The second is the personal development side of it. Now, I'm sure all of us here, if not a few, then we are all interested in how to improve ourselves, how to become better people. And I find coming to SCVP that the message that we receive is how you can use Jainism practically. Now, A lot of us can read Western authors who are into personal development, people like Eckhart Tolle or Deepak Chopra, and all the messages that they give, we can find that in our scriptures. And the scriptures tell us how to use them practically and how to use these messages to relieve our pressures and stresses of daily life. A very good example we heard was a couple of weeks ago when Jatin Bhai came here. It was truly inspiring. And like anything else, if you just do something once, like going to the gym every 3 months, you're not going to see any benefits. And coming to SAVP every Friday gives us a boost, keeps the mind clear, and sets up us for the following week. And to conclude, I would say we are extremely privileged that we have SAVP, and I'm grateful to all the people behind who are making this all happen. Thank you.
Sadhvi, just to summarize, we sometimes actually have more adults coming here than children. So, we sometimes will had 60 to 100 adults coming into the classes. The other benefit, people have actually, we have sort of 4 teachers here. So different styles, different methodologies. So people have different ways of learning. So it's again a very integral part of SAVP. And again, we thank you very much for that.
Thank you very much. Listening to all the lovely talks of the adult class and their personal stories, it makes me think that any parent who brings a child to anamic class compulsory has to go to the adult class, I think, because it's so beneficial.